Special Court resumes trial of Dr. Riek Machar and 7 SPLM/AIO officials, Juba, South Sudan, October 13, 2025. The special court established by the SPLM-IG has today resumed the controversial trial of First Vice President Dr. Riek Machar, Tenny Durgan, and 7 senior officials from the SPLM/AIO, amid mounting criticism from opposition groups and international observers. The session, held under tight security in Juba, focused on witness testimonies related to the Nasir incident, which the government alleges led to the deaths of several civilians and soldiers in Upper Nile State. Defense lawyers again challenged the court's legitimacy and neutrality, arguing that the proceedings violate both the 2018 Revitalized Peace Agreement, RERCS, and the Transitional Constitution. Observers from the African Union, IGAD, and civil society organizations were reportedly denied access to the courtroom, fueling further concerns over transparency. Sources close to the defense team revealed that Dr. Machar appeared calm, but visibly frustrated as the prosecution introduced new documents purportedly linking his office to the alleged incident. The defense, however, dismissed the evidence as fabricated and politically motivated. The trial, now entering its 9th session, has drawn widespread condemnation from the opposition, who describe it as a sham process aimed at eliminating political rivals ahead of the 2025 elections. The court adjourned until October 15th, when the prosecution is expected to call its next key witness. South Sudan's military chief has ordered an armed group in Jonglei State to integrate into the National Army or face forcible disarmament, a move that observers warn could undermine the country's fragile security. 2 orders, issued Sunday by General Paul Nong Majok, target the Red Belt movement in Bor County and armed youth in Warrap State. A 3rd directive commands forces from the main opposition group, the Sudan People's Liberation Army in opposition, to report to government army barracks as part of long-stalled security arrangements. The ultimatums, delivered in a statement from military spokesperson Major General Lul Rue Koang, come as the implementation of the 2018 peace deal has largely stalled. The military's directives. The first order demands that the Red Belt movement, which the state government recently designated a criminal organization in Bor County, join the South Sudan People's Defense Forces, SSPDF, along with their weapons. The military described it as a golden opportunity and honor to serve. Those who refuse will face forcible disarmament at the earliest time possible, the statement said. Members of the Red Belt movement are seen in Bor, South Sudan. The Red Belt movement, whose members have recently been seen in green uniforms and carrying firearms in Bor town, has claimed it is a vigilante force protecting local communities from attacks by hostile neighbors. The government says the group's first known activity was an ambush on the National Minister of Wildlife in Jonglei in February. The second order gives armed youth in Warrap State, President Kiir's home state, 21 days to voluntarily surrender their weapons or face a comprehensive forcible disarmament exercise. The 3rd directive instructs SPLAIO forces to report to the nearest SSPDF barracks to prepare for the next phase of the peace deal's transitional security arrangements. The statement warned that non-compliant members would be considered hostile forces. SPLAIO and civil society react. The SPLAIO, a key signatory to the 2018 agreement, rejected the order, arguing it violates the pact's outlined procedures for the cantonment, training, and unification of forces. This is a clear declaration that the 2018 peace deal is effectively null and void, SPLAIO General John Sunday Martin told Radio Tamazuch. He accused the Army chief of acting outside the peace framework and questioned why the Army had previously attacked SPLAIO sites. This is a clear declaration that the 2018 peace deal is effectively null and void, SPLAIO General John Sunday Martin told Radio Tamazuch. He accused the Army chief of acting outside the peace framework and questioned why the Army had previously attacked SPLAIO sites. Civil society leaders also expressed concern. Bol Deng Bol, executive director of Intrepid South Sudan, said the approach of issuing threats rather than pursuing dialogue could backfire. This order is not a call for dialogue. It sounds like a threat and may push these groups to isolate themselves further and potentially become more aggressive, Bol told Radio Tamazuch. He noted that many armed youth groups have emerged in parts of South Sudan in response to widespread insecurity and that forcible disarmament could leave communities vulnerable to attacks from neighboring regions. A fragile peace under strain. The 2018 peace deal has been under severe strain. Its key provisions, including unifying rival forces into a single national army, have been repeatedly delayed. In March, violence broke out between SSPDF and SPLAIO forces following the arrest of SPLAIO leader Riek Machar, who also serves as the country's first vice president. The clashes led to SPLAIO units being dislodged from several cantonment sites, further complicating the already faltering unification process. Juba, South Sudan, October 13, 2025. The special court trying the Nasir incident case involving suspended First Vice President Dr. Riek Machar, suspended Petroleum Minister Pute Kong Chul, and 6 others has adjourned proceedings to Wednesday, October 15. The adjournment follows a brief session today as judges reviewed new submissions from both sides. The case, linked to last year's deadly clashes in Nasir, continues to draw public attention amid rising political tensions in Juba. Expanded print version for online or newspaper use. Special court adjourns hearing in Nasir incident case. Juba, South Sudan, October 13, 2025. The special court hearing the Nasir incident case involving suspended First Vice President Dr. Riek Machar, suspended Petroleum Minister Pute Kong Chul, and 6 other co-accused individuals has been adjourned to Wednesday, October 15. The judges announced the adjournment after a brief session on Monday, citing the need to review fresh legal submissions and clarify procedural matters raised during the day's proceedings. The defendants face charges related to the Nasir incident, a violent confrontation between rival SPLMIO factions earlier this year that left several people dead and reignited concerns about divisions within the peace government. Legal analysts say the outcome of the trial could influence South Sudan's political stability and the broader peace process ahead of the country's anticipated elections. The special court is expected to resume hearings with witness testimonies and further cross-examinations on Wednesday. The special court handling the Nasir incident case involving suspended First Vice President Dr. Riek Machar, suspended Petroleum Minister Pute Kong Chul, and 6 other co-accused individuals has adjourned its proceedings to Wednesday, October 15. The adjournment came after a brief session on Monday, during which the presiding judges cited the need for additional time to review new submissions and procedural matters presented by the defense and prosecution teams. The high-profile case stems from the Nasir incident, an alleged confrontation between rival SPLMIO factions earlier this year, which reportedly resulted in the deaths of several soldiers and civilians. The government subsequently suspended Dr. Machar and his allies pending investigation, marking a major political and legal turning point in South Sudan's fragile peace process. Court officials have confirmed that the next hearing will continue with witness testimonies and cross-examinations. Observers say the outcome of the trial could have significant implications for both the peace agreement implementation and national unity efforts ahead of the long-delayed elections. UN rights body urges UN action to avert new South Sudan war. What is the situation now the conflict risk in South Sudan is sharply rising? Observers warn that rival factions, government versus opposition, are recruiting new fighters, including children, abducting children, and that hostilities are increasing in strategic areas. Key peace provisions from the 2018 Revitalized Peace Agreement, RARCES, are being undermined. Delays in integrating armed forces, in constitutional reform, in establishing transitional justice mechanisms, and in holding elections. Political tensions are acute. The arrest or detention/house arrest of opposition leader First Vice President Riek Machar, dismissals of people allied to him, militarized confrontations, disinformation campaigns. Civilians are suffering from increasing violence, displacement, human rights abuses. What the UN/rights bodies are urging de-escalation and restraint. All parties are called on to pull back from the brink, stop new military escalations, cease provocative or abusive acts, uphold ceasefire provisions. Full implementation of peace agreement. The 2018 Revitalized Peace Agreement is repeatedly cited as the only viable framework. Key tasks. unify armed forces, ensure political inclusion, hold elections, conduct constitutional reforms, and operationalize transitional justice mechanisms. Truth Commission, Reparation Authority, Hybrid Court. Release political detainees/respect political rights. Protect civilians and human rights. Prevent attacks on noncombatants, hospitals, avoid recruitment of children, ensure humanitarian access. What they want the AU, UN, IGAD, or other guards/regional actors to do. Increase diplomatic pressure. The UN rights body is urging regional actors, including the AU and IGAD, international guarantors of the peace agreement, to press for compliance. Support mechanisms for accountability. Encourage or help operationalize courts, commissions, etc. The hybrid court for South Sudan is mentioned as necessary for justice. Ensure monitoring and early warning, emphasizing that violations be documented, risk factors for atrocity crimes assessed, and publicly reported. UN mechanisms like the Commission on Human Rights in South Sudan should be strengthened. Prevent foreign intervention and arms flows. There are concerns about foreign troops, external military support, possible violations of embargoes. The calls include UN arms embargo renewal and stricter controls. Possible challenges/risks: weak political will among South Sudanese leadership to fully implement the peace deal. Delay or deferral of elections or constitutional reforms due to financial, logistical, or political hurdles. Disinformation, ethnic factionalism making reconciliation harder. UN Rights Commission urges AU, UN action to avert renewed war in South Sudan. Addis Ababa/Geneva. The United Nations Commission on Human Rights in South Sudan has warned that the country's deepening political crisis is driving fresh outbreaks of violence and worsening humanitarian conditions, urging both the African Union (AU) and the UN Security Council to take swift and decisive action to prevent a return to full-scale war. In a statement issued Monday, the Commission said recent escalations, including political infighting, arrests of opposition figures, and renewed recruitment of fighters, signal a dangerous deterioration of the fragile peace established under the 2018 revitalized agreement. Commission Chair Yasmin Suka noted that the situation is deteriorating at an alarming pace, adding that the international community must act before it's too late to protect civilians and preserve regional stability. The Commission called on the AU and UN to increase pressure on South Sudan's leaders to fully implement the peace deal, unify the armed forces, and ensure accountability for human rights violations through the long-delayed hybrid court for South Sudan. It also urged the extension of the UN arms embargo and greater monitoring of atrocities, warning that continued impunity could reignite nationwide conflict. The warning comes amid mounting tensions between rival factions of the ruling SPLM and SPLMIO, stalled preparations for elections, and widespread reports of human rights abuses in conflict-prone regions such as Upper Nile and Jonglei. Dr. Jerry Raimondo Leg, a lead defense lawyer for South Sudan's suspended First Vice President Riek Machar, on Monday argued that the special court trying his client and 7 others is operating unlawfully, claiming its legal mandate expired last week. The objection adds fresh legal and political complications to the high-profile trial, which Machar's party, the Sudan People's Liberation Movement in Opposition, SPLM/AJO, has dismissed as politically motivated. Appearing before the special court for the Nasir incident during its 9th session, defense lawyer Jerry Raimondo Leg filed a motion seeking to dismiss the case and secure the release of all 8 accused. He said the ministerial order that established the court granted it a 1-month mandate, from September 8 to October 8, which has now lapsed. From October 9, the court has become jurisdictionally incompetent and unlawful, Leg told the panel. The court did not issue an immediate ruling on the defense motion. Instead, presiding Judge James Alala Deng adjourned proceedings to Wednesday, October 15, saying the court would seek an extension of its mandate from the relevant institution. Leg also argued that the case violates Article 103 of South Sudan's transitional constitution, which he said grants Machar immunity from prosecution while serving as first vice president. Before the presiding judge adjourned Monday's session, the prosecution team also requested more time to prepare evidence and coordinate witnesses. The court case, which began on September 22, involves Machar, 73, and 7 co-accused, Pute Kong Chul, 40, Mam Pal Duer, 37, Gatwech Lam Puch, 66, Lieutenant General Gabriel Dup Lam, 53, Camilo Gatmichael, 47, Mating Yak Riek, 45, and Dominic Gatgok Riek, 27. The accused face charges including treason, crimes against humanity, mass murder, terrorism, and destruction of property. The case relates to attacks in March 2025 on an army base in Nasir County that killed General David Major Dak and dozens of soldiers. The government has alleged the assaults were carried out by Machar's Sudan People's Liberation Movement/Army in Opposition and an allied militia known as the White Army. Dr. Jerry Raimondo Leg, a lead defense lawyer for South Sudan's suspended First Vice President Riek Machar, on Monday argued that the special court trying his client and 7 others is operating unlawfully, claiming its legal mandate expired last week. The objection adds fresh legal and political complications to the high-profile trial, which Machar's party, the Sudan People's Liberation Movement in Opposition, SPLM/AJO, has dismissed as politically motivated. Appearing before the special court for the Nasir incident during its 9th session, defense lawyer Jerry Raimondo Leg filed a motion seeking to dismiss the case and secure the release of all 8 accused. He said the ministerial order that established the court granted it a 1-month mandate, from September 8th to October 8th, which has now lapsed. From October 9th, the court has become jurisdictionally incompetent and unlawful, Leg told the panel. The court did not issue an immediate ruling on the defense motion. Instead, presiding Judge James Alala Deng adjourned proceedings to Wednesday, October 15th, saying the court would seek an extension of its mandate from the relevant institution. Leg also argued that the case violates Article 103 of South Sudan's transitional constitution, which he said grants Machar immunity from prosecution while serving as first vice president. Before the presiding judge adjourned Monday's session, the prosecution team also requested more time to prepare evidence and coordinate witnesses. The court case, which began on September 22nd, involves Machar, 73, and 7 co-accused, Pute Kong Chul, 40, Mam Pal Duer, 37, Gatwech Lam Puch, 66, Lieutenant General Gabriel Dup Lam, 53, Camilo Gatmichael, 47, Mating Yak Riek, 45, and Dominic Gatgok Riek, 27. The accused face charges including treason, crimes against humanity, mass murder, terrorism, and destruction of property. The case relates to attacks in March 2025 on an army base in Nasir County that killed General David Major Dak and dozens of soldiers. The government has alleged the assaults were carried out by Machar's Sudan People's Liberation Movement/Army in Opposition and an allied militia known as the White Army.
The Vice President, Dr. Riek Machar, has appeared in a so-called special court today on the 22nd September 2025, after he was charged and detained for several months by the corrupt authorities in Juba. And many people, including the government officials, may think that they are, in one way or another, trying to humiliate or embarrass the first vice president and the peace signatory to the revitalized agreement on the resolution of conflict in the Republic of South Sudan. But little did they know that many revolutionaries, change makers in the world, have always been subjected to hostility, detentions, and pain. And nevertheless, they always excelled. Take an example from Nelson Mandela, who was accused of sabotaging government properties and counterterrorism and civil unrest in South Africa, and he was sentenced to almost 27 years in prison. And at the end of the day, he emerged victorious. Why? Because he is fighting for the right of the people. He's fighting for equality, justice, and freedom for all. And that is exactly what Dr. Machar is doing right now. And if you think that Dr. Machar is, being humiliated or he's going to get away, from the face of South Sudanese policymaking, and then the joke is on you. Because you have shown clearly today during the discourse hearing that Dr. Riek Machar is an innocent man who has nothing to do with whatever you're accusing him to. Because clearly You are the one who orchestrated all this pain and suffering and the death and terrorism against the civilians in Nasser. And of course, it has been proven today by the kangaroo court that you have set up, saying that you don't have your legal, a paper ready to submit your evidence to the judges that you have, orchestrated in one way or another. And you think that you're charging someone of something that is legitimate and of moral ground. And this part of the message goes to South Sudanese people as well, that this is the time. The country must change. And change comes with people who says enough is enough. People who know their right. People who would stand up in a non-violent way and demand their basic and fundamental human right to be respected. A country can shine and thrive only if there is free health care, there's access to education for children, there are infrastructure in which people don't live on dung and water and flood and mud. People must live in a country that is emphasizing service for its citizen other than an authority that sell out the land, that bring in machineries to kill its own citizen and give away the public funds and use them for personal acquaintances. So this is the country that we want. And this is what Dr. Riek Machar is fighting for. So this fight is not for himself alone. It is our fight. And I believe that there are so many other people that are in opposition and opposing the government who are fighting for the same thing too. But at the moment, Dr. Riek Machar is the one who has become a victim for a nation building. And of course, we should take responsibilities and make sure that we stand with this man at these adversities, because the government lured him in a very sensitive way to torture him and punish him just simply for being a voice for the people.
The United Nations Commission on Human Rights in South Sudan has sounded a fresh alarm over the country's rapidly deteriorating political and humanitarian situation, calling on the African Union and the UN Security Council to take immediate and decisive action to prevent a return to full-scale conflict. In a statement issued at the conclusion of its mission to the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, the Commission said South Sudan's escalating political crisis is fueling renewed armed violence and deepening already dire human rights and humanitarian conditions. The worsening instability, it warned, also threatens to spill over into the broader region. Despite a decade of regional efforts to support the peace process, South Sudan's leaders have deliberately stalled progress and brought the nation to yet another precipice, the Commission said. According to the UN body, the scale of current clashes rivals levels not seen since the signing of the 2017 cessation of hostilities agreement, with civilians once again bearing the brunt of violence, forced displacement, and widespread rights abuses. The Commission also pointed to South Sudan's persistent justice and accountability vacuum, which it said continues to perpetuate political intransigence, corruption, and cycles of conflict. The latest power struggle at the center of government, it added, has emboldened armed groups and displaced thousands across the country. In its latest report, Plundering a Nation, How Rampant Corruption Unleashed a Human Rights Crisis in South Sudan, the Commission detailed how grand corruption and the diversion of public funds have crippled essential services and deprived millions of South Sudanese of their basic rights. The UN experts urged regional and international bodies to intensify pressure on South Sudan's leaders to implement meaningful reforms, hold perpetrators accountable, and restore the peace process before the situation deteriorates further.